Hello, welcome back to the channel of nonsense, or as I should say today, the channel of no nonsense, no frills motoring, because I'm in the new Dacia Sandero. It's the cheapest car you can buy in the UK if you buy the really cheap one, which is £8,000, but no one actually buys that one. Everyone buys the £9,000 one. I'm in the top spec £11,600 one, which is still ridiculously cheap. So this is kind of a Polo Fiesta size car really, but it's still about 6 or 7 grand cheaper than those cars. So this is bargain basement motoring. This all new one though, as I'll show you when we go driving, is all new. It's on a new platform that underpins the new Duke and the Clio, so it should be a lot nicer than the old one. So yeah, manual gearbox. I've got 90 horsepower petrol engine. I've got a manual handbrake. I've got a steering wheel. It's got everything. Let's go. Wave to the people, because that's always nice. I'm going to try and get through this whole review without doing the whole James May meme thing, you know, where you say good news. I've done it already. It's gone wrong. Right. The steering is super light. The steering wheel does adjust for rake and reach, so uppy, downy, inny, outy. I know that's like on every car, but I don't think it was on the previous one of these. This is very much the definition of an car. So yeah. Let's see if it feels cheap. Well, it's not slow. We've got 90 horsepower, 1 litre turbocharged petrol engine, and yeah, it gets up to speed quite nicely. 0 to 62 I think is in 11 seconds, so obviously it's not rapid, but I can already tell you're not going to struggle to keep up with traffic. The ride on this bumpy road is pretty decent. There aren't any rattles or squeaks. Okay, this feels like a posher car than you would think, considering you can get one for £8,000. Yeah. Okay. This is a top spec one, so comfort spec in the UK, £11,600. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay. It's got Android Auto. That's weird, isn't it? It's probably the cheapest Apple CarPlay without a wire. I drove a £50,000 Kia yesterday. You had to plug it in. So yeah, well done on that, Dacia. I already quite like it. I don't want to use the word honest because that's a bit wanky. So it's an honest car, because cars can't lie to you, really. Can it go around a corner? Yes. Yes, it can go around a corner. Can it accelerate up to 50 miles an hour in 5th gear? Yes. So far, so car-y. Right, now I'm up to about 60 miles an hour. Yep, let's go for the 60 limit. Ooh. I'm getting a bit of wind noise. They have redesigned the door mirrors on this new one to be more aerodynamic. In fact, this is an all-new car, really. The styling, I'll stick some shots in. It looks quite smart. It's got LED running lights, LED headlight option, new tail lights, new body, new platform, kind of new everything, really. In terms of engine choices, there's a Bogo spec naturally aspirated 1 litre, 65 horsepower. I think you don't want that. It will be tedious. You want this 1 litre turbocharged 90 horsepower one. There is a 100 horsepower bi-fuel one, which can switch between petrol and LPG, and that has a phenomenal statistic. It can do 800 miles if you fill the LPG tank and the petrol tank at the same time, which is nuts. And apparently LPG is about 65p a litre, so it's much cheaper than petrol, but less efficient. But still, 800 miles of range is not to be sniffed at. This is good. This is honest, normal motoring. Last week I was in a GT3 RS. Now I'm in a Dacia Sandero, and well, I'm enjoying it, frankly. It goes around corners. Does it brake? Yeah. Yeah, the brakes are pretty sharp, actually. Normally, when you drive a cheap car like this, things annoy you, like the clutch is vague and the brakes are a bit crap and it doesn't accelerate very nicely. This has none of those faults so far. Obviously these are only just first impressions, but first impressions count for a lot in a car like this, and yeah, The only thing that really tells me this is a cheap car, these hard plastics here, the dashboard is a sea of grey with a little digital black and white monochrome screen in the middle, but that's about it. I've got a phone holder here so I can wedge my phone in there and adjust how it goes, portrait or landscape, and it's got a USB slot right underneath it so you don't need to have cables trailing everywhere. That's sensible. I've got a big panel of cloth across the dashboard which just breaks up the grey plastic. It's cheap to do that, and it's clever, it's smart. It does make a big difference. Looks like the inside of a suit. It's very nice. You've got basic aircon controls, but you know, you have got aircon. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it really. It's a lot better than you would expect for the money. And the drive's actually quite nice. Yeah, I kind of want one. I like this. Visibility over my shoulder is not great because, I don't know, B-pillar's a little bit thick, obviously, and I've got a GoPro there. Your view out the back is pretty good, massive windows. It's got electric windows all around on this top spec model. Yeah, electrically adjustable mirrors. It's got 6 airbags, I think, including curtain ones, so safety is good. It's got these new anti-whiplash headrests, which are kind of curved and sexy like the ones you get in a Volvo XC90. Okay, yeah. I'm a bit flabbergasted at how good this is. These are my genuine first impressions, and I like it. I like it a lot already. Right, that's my first driving impressions. I'm going to stop in a minute, I'll give you a walk around and show you what it looks like and what it looks like in here with some shaky cam footage. See you in a minute. Okay, here's a very quick shaky cam tour of the interior of the Dacia Sandero from a field. So the steering wheel is dead simple, quite thin. You've got some blanked out buttons that I think don't ever do anything because this is pretty much a top spec model. Let me just brighten that up. That's the dashboard. It is plain and simple. It's got a monochrome screen in the middle, and you can flick between a few functions using that button there. So you can do your tyre pressure monitor, see your MPG, your trip, and all that kind of good stuff. It's dead simple, basically. There's not too many options on there. It's got cruise control. Look at that. It's got really basic aircon control, so you can adjust it from, you know, an asthmatic sneezing on you to a gale force wind, hotter, colder. It's really quite simple. USB 12 volt there, another USB up here with this very clever, well, very clever, it's a phone cradle, and you can have it any which way you want, and you can adjust it, and you don't have to have a wire trailing because there's a really short distance there. This is the top spec 8-inch infotainment system, which is simple, bright, colourful, and it's got wireless Apple CarPlay, so happy days there. So you can use your Spotify and everything through there and listen to your World War II podcasts. It's got Android Auto as well, if you're of that persuasion. There's not many options in here. It's got emergency automatic braking, so you can turn it on and off there. And it's all that kind of stuff. It's got a rear view camera as well, which is pretty blurry, to be fair. It's clearly a cheap one, but you know, it's a cheap car. What do you expect? It's got sat nav. It's got radio. I mean, yeah, it's just nothing that you don't need. No physical volume knob, so if I want to get rid of take that, which I do, is there. Got this bit of cloth across the dashboard, which actually does feel quite nice. If I'm going to be doing a wanker prod test, that is rock hard, but what do you expect? You can get one of these for £8,000. There we go. Gear knob, manual handbrake, cubby hole, armrest, not in the basic one, only in the top spec one. That's a little key fob, key card thing. Honestly, I mean, it's fine. It is an car. And there is me. Hello! Right, let's carry on driving and do the Stepway briefly as well. Have I spoken about these headrests? They're kind of oddly sensual. They're to reduce whiplash. They're quite nice. They're curvy, they're stylish. The interior is not actually too dark and drab. I'm about to get told off for being in a field though. Better go. I'm on a twisty road now, and it doesn't roll that much in the corners. It's got a nice gentle attitude to going around a corner, and it grips really well as well. I've driven many worse cars that cost double what this costs. Do you want to know something really, really, really irrelevant about this car? You can heel and toe in it, even in motorbike boots that I'm wearing. In terms of downsides, well, the gear knob does feel a bit flimsy. The gear shift action is a bit light and a bit vague, but again, I've had much worse in much more expensive cars. It's a bit noisy at 60 miles an hour, but it's mostly the wind. There's a bit of road noise. It's just quite composed. You can tell that putting on a new platform has worked wonders for it. Brake pedal is a little bit sharp. Ooh. Engine doesn't sound too thrashy either. I know I'm doing this a lot. It's because I'm surprised at how good this is. It just goes to show that cheap doesn't have to mean terrible. The thing I've always thought about the Dacia Sandero, everyone says, you know, cheapest car on sale in the UK for £8,000, £9,000, what have you. It's a bit of a weird one, because if you're like me and you're a petrol head and you've got £8,000, you're not going to go out and buy a new car, really, are you? You're going to go and buy something more exciting that's depreciated heavily, you know, a V12 BMW or something for £8,000. But you know, most people out there want a new car. They want something reliable as a tool to get them from A to B, and therefore they're likely to buy new. Therefore they're likely to look at something like this. And if that is you, then yeah, I mean, these things are meant to be reliable, these engines, and there's basically nothing to go wrong on it. You've got a 3-year warranty, all that kind of stuff, and you probably want to finance it. And the cheapest one of these is £100 a month with £1,000 as a deposit on a PCP finance thing. Goes up a bit for the version you'd actually want, but £100 a month, I think if you total up your Disney Plus, Netflix, Sky subscriptions, you could have a car for the same amount. Probably just a Sky subscription with Sky Sports and Sky Pornography or whatever it is. You could have a Dacia. You can have a car that's roomy. It's got space for 3 adults in the back. It's nuts, isn't it? I think it's worth pointing out as well that, you know, if you're buying a 10 grand car, if you wanted, say, a second-hand Ford Fiesta, nearly new sort of thing, the finance deals that you get on used cars and nearly new cars here in the UK are pretty rubbish compared to the finance deals you can get on a new car like this. So that's where this really comes into its own. If you want to finance a new one of these versus financing a second-hand Fiesta, the interest rates on second-hand car finance are usually quite bad because manufacturers really put lots of money in subsidising finance on new cars, if that makes sense. So it's usually cheaper to finance a new car than a used one. So you might have a 10 grand budget in mind and you might be financing both. The new one will probably cost you less in the long run, sort of. It's all confusing with PCP finance and not really owning things. Oh my God, what has my channel become? Willies, boobies, poo. Right, I'm now in the Sandero's slightly taller brother, the Sandero Stepway, which is basically a Sandero with a lift kit on it. The suspension's quite a bit taller. It's got roof rails, modular roof rails on it, and yeah, it's more expensive. It's about £1.5 grand more expensive than the regular Sandero, up to £2.5 grand difference, because at the top end this gets a slightly higher trim level called Prestige. The one I'm driving is actually the most expensive Sandero you can buy because
calculating route.
It does that. No, not because it does that, because it's got an automatic gearbox. So this is the same 90 horsepower petrol engine that I had in the one just now, in the normal Sandero, but this has got the dreaded 3-letter acronym. It's a CVT. Continuously variable transmission, or is it constantly variable? Either way, it's like a scooter gearbox where the engine revs go to the roof and then the car speed catches up with it. Usually they're really bad and noisy and they feel inefficient. This one takes 2 seconds off the 0 to 60 time, so 14 seconds if you're counting in a Dacia. Yeah, let's boot it and see if it does that classic annoying CVT thing. it's not actually that bad. It's actually quite responsive, and the engine's quiet enough that when it does go to, what does it go to? 4,500 RPM when you put your foot down. It's not an unpleasant noise, really. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have a manual, but if you need an auto, this, weirdly, isn't terrible. CVTs are usually gash, and this is not. Right, I mean, handling-wise, it feels actually, the ride comfort is a little better than the regular Sandero. That extra suspension travel must do something, I guess. It's still, let's go with some cat's eyes, still like you can feel the road. It doesn't turn it into a boat. It's just a bit of extra ground clearance, really, and a bit of a higher driving position. Obviously, the interior is a bit different. It's been tangoed. You've got orange stripes on the seat. And yeah, otherwise, it's much the same as the regular Sandero. It's just taller. And 60% of Sandero buyers buy the Stepway. There we go, have a fact. Other than that, I think I like it just as much as the regular one, although I wish I had a manual gearbox. That's enough waffle from me. Over to you, Tim, for a slightly shorter outro in the rain. The new Dacia Sandero and Sandero Stepway are a bit like buying paracetamol for your headache. You could spend £2 and get a pack with caffeine and ground up Viagra and whale's tears in it, or you could spend 20p and just get a tool that does the job. And that's kind of what the Sandero is. It makes you realise that in modern cars you're paying for a lot of flim-flam that you don't really want or need. This does everything you want and kind of nothing else, but it's been tarted up a bit. The panel gaps are tighter, it looks more modern, the interior is no longer a depressing little hole, and it's got wireless Apple CarPlay. It is still just a car, but it's kind of moved with the times and meets the needs of kind of what we're used to with our connectivity and stuff like that. The engine's good, the driving experience, really, there's nothing to fault with it. Yeah, it is a very good car, but it is just a car. It's not going to set your heart on fire, but it's roomy, it's practical, it does what you need it to do. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm going somewhere else before it rains. Hit my bell, and I'll see you next time. Not outside in the rain.